halfway through the episode. We are now back to Husker Du. I think I have the first take on this one, but Matt,
you're going to stick around?
I'm going to stick around for a little bit longer.
All right.
All right.
So,
Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Wow. All right. Well, Husker Du's New Day Rising comes in at number 143 in the 1980s on Best Ever Albums, number 15 in 1985, number 954 of all time. It's Husker Du's second highest rated album behind 1984's Zen Arcade, which we covered a couple weeks ago. Husker Du is ranked number 235 of overall artist rankings on Best Ever Albums. And this album did make Rolling Stone's list, coming in at number 428.
Was Zen Arcade on Rolling Stone's list? I can't remember.
Yes. No, it wasn't actually. This album made was Rolling Stone, but Zen Arcade did not. So,
Oh, wow.
John,
Okay.
John, take it away.
Yeah, this is I enjoyed this album. I think what I like about Husker Du is the fact that their albums very much feel like mini sagas, I think would be the best way I'd describe it. And I like how it goes from chaos to relative calm at different times, depending on where you're at. Yeah. And it very much feels Husker Du albums to me very much feel like an emotional landscape to some degree, because I can listen to them as concepts, I can listen to them as individual songs, but I think I most process them as almost like an emotional outlay, kind of depending on the song, right? I almost feel like you have to hear them in conjunction with each other because they're weaving so much in the context of relatively short albums for the amount of time, for the total runtime, right? You've got a lot of just about 2-minute songs on this. Before on Zen Arcade it was even shorter at times and a larger amount of tracks. And it's always sort of, some songs can just be pure noise rock, especially at the end of this, right? Plans I Make was just full on noise rock, sound. Lyrics are less important than just the blaze of sound. But then, in the middle of the album, they'll throw in things like Books About UFOs, which is this very, I found appealing song, mid-tempo.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Mm-hmm. At the beginning, I thought they started off really strong right off the bat with a 1-2 punch of New Day Rising and The Girl Who Lives on Heaven Hill. So I want to continue with this, but I think this is going to best be processed as all of us talking about it kind of and just jumping in. But yeah, this one, just in a general sense, just know this is a thumbs up for me, and there's more I have to say, but I want to kind of couch it in give and take with you guys. So Josh, what was your take?
Well, I disagree with Best Ever Albums because this is the superior album to Zen Arcade. I really like this band and album. I'm at the point with them where I'm kind of mad no one told me about this band when I was younger. I feel like I could have just skipped 90% of the bands I listened to that were influenced by Husker Du and listened to them instead. I feel like they just have this they're punk first and foremost, which I really like, but as we said before, they kind of have this pop sensibility in some of their songs, and there's a melodic nature to them that
and noise rock too, Josh.
Yes.
There's a lot of noise rock.
Yeah, and the way they do noise rock I really like too, compared to some other noise rock bands. So kind of all of these things that cohere together with them, I really respond to, and I like this album throughout. I agree with you, John, that there's kind of an interesting flow to their music where it kind of is aggressive. It kind of ebbs and flows with aggressiveness, and its energy too. And they're not afraid to come out screaming with New Day Rising and then go back to Girl Who Lives on Heaven Hill, which is way more kind of traditional and
I kind of described it to a friend of mine, Josh, as you're in the ocean with someone and they're alternatingly at times trying to drown you and then at times treading water with you and then splashing you playfully and then punching you in the face again, and you're going up and down, you know what I mean? I don't know why I use that analogy, but that's how and you never know, song to song, right? What the person next to you is going to do in that scenario. And it's both invigorating and also terrifying, or at different times. So it doesn't feel schizophrenic in a way. It feels like just kind of the mood of a person
just changing, but it's still the same person. If that makes sense.
Great point, Josh.
An extreme example of a song on here would be like How to Skin a Cat. That's where it kind of gets like almost a little much and too much for me, but then they bring it back and to What You Drinking, and I find that song fun. So I really like the fuzzy guitar that they use on this. That gets to kind of the noise rock sensibility that they have. A song like I Apologize, it's funny. It's almost like they sounded like a punk REM on that song, which is kind of, gets to their song structure or I don't know, guitar or something. It just kind of resonated with me listening to this back to back with REM. And they are... they're not afraid to kind of change the volume of their vocals too. Like perfect example, there was like really low singing on it, which kind of like threw me off, and it's almost like they didn't want you to hear the lyrics. I don't know if it was just intentionally badly produced or if that was intentional or not, but for every kind of different thing they do, the next song is like a banger, for lack of a better word. Terms of Psychic Warfare, I really like that song. I put it on the montage this week. 59 Times the Pain I enjoyed. There's a cool guitar part in Powerline. I mean, pretty much like every song has something appealing about it to me, and there is just some chemistry and or combination of things that they do on this album that makes me really like this band. So thumbs up for me.
Yeah, I'm going to be with you, Josh. I think this was more consistent for me than Zen Arcade. It's also shorter, so it's got that going for it. Mm-hmm. But Gone is the I'm not hearing really any of the hardcore Husker Du that they started out with, and that you got a little hint of. I remember there was a section of Zen Arcade that was very like 4 or 5 tracks in a row that was like, that's more hardcore. This is more melodic. This is more. I don't know. I just like the structure of this a lot more. The guitar, you're definitely, it's a full guitar sound. I mean, there's a lot of guitar sound on this, and I think Josh, I don't know if you said it was fuzzy. I mean, it's very metallic to me. It's got a very high pitched, distorted guitar sound. There's not much bass underneath it, and it kind of reminded me a little bit of although it's not as heavy as it, but it's got a similar tone as like a Nine Inch Nails guitar sound, like almost like industrial rock guitar sound with as tinny as it is. But this to me is kind of, again, it still has that it's still got a hardcore punk aesthetic to it in a way. There's a lot of screaming on here. There's the vocals are very, they're very powerful, and it's kind of screamy, but it's done in a way that's it's not like a guttural scream. Like I was thinking of that band Fucked Up when I was listening to this, because they have a similar kind of sound in terms of like very catchy melodic musicianship and really big full guitar sounds. But then the lead singer comes in with this like guttural screaming sound, very deep, jarring kind of, unsettling for me vocal styling. That Bob Mould is not like that. Bob Mould he's screaming, but he's doing so in a way that is Matt approved, if you will, right? Like I'm okay with that type of screaming, and so I this was not a difficult listen for me at all. I'm kind of bought in right away. This is it's a more polished sound, more focused than maybe some of their earlier hardcore stuff. But yeah, this is very much like, this is alternative rock. You could see the 90s all over the place here with 90s alt rock, grunge, alternative rock bands. And yeah, it's kind of like, I didn't really know these guys either, Josh. I knew the name, but I never knew kind of what they sounded like or really understood the influence that they would have. But this is ahead of its time. This is not an album from 1985, right? Right. No freaking way was I thinking of that this was like from this type of sound was existing in 1985. So Yeah, it's kind of, I mean, to me, this is a little bit, it does get a little samey here and there, but it does throw in some different things in there. Like, I really liked books about UFOs that they throw the piano in there. It's kind of more of a blues rock kind of feel for it. I really did like the terms of psychic warfare too, Josh. I thought that was a good choice. They did lose me at the How to Skin a Cat, which is not really a song. It's just that's, as John would probably say, that song is designed to make you change skip to the next track, because it's just like a bunch of sounds, and I don't know, it's comparing cats and rats together, and it's, I don't know, it's not really for me.
It's an emotional release. That's what it's there for, and it's not like 7 minutes of it, right?
It's short. Yeah. Yes, it's less than 2 minutes and stuff. But I don't know. I mean, Josh, you said something about the energy ebbing and flowing. It kind of just, to me, it just stayed pretty much consistent throughout the record, and so, but I thought it was very enjoyable. I liked it a lot. I'd like to listen to it more. I think I probably listened to it about 3 times, and I think I would probably see it like a similar listening experience to when I had listened to Murmur, where I felt like the first couple times listening to that, it seemed samey, and then I was able to pick stuff apart. I'm still kind of in the samey realm with this album to an extent, but I also think upon repeated listenings, I'll be able to pick out more and decipher more. So I just need to spend a little bit more time with it. But yeah, thumbs up. It's a real solid record.
It's interesting you think this is samey, because I actually thought it was very, very different sounding as it went on. I also would say, like, we've covered some stuff in this lane before, like Mission of Burma, right? I feel like was kind of in this lane. And there's bands we haven't covered yet, but are in this same era, like Fugazi and stuff that, like, I don't know if they were ahead of their time, right? Because there's bands kind of, we're going to do the Minutemen, right? That's another band. So, like, I don't want to spoil a little bit of what's coming, right? So, like, they're in this. But I think there's just a panache that they do it with that really always stands out to me. And
well, it's ahead of its...
hard to sound so appealing while largely screaming lyrics.
Yeah.
Like Husker Du does. That's what I always think is their secret. That, I mean, they're basically screaming, but you're not usually, to me at least, I'm not processing it as a guy screaming. It just works and it's pleasant,
right? Like
in its own way.
But that's what he's doing, though. Like, that's the thing. I agree. Saying, but it's ahead of its time. Even though there's other bands that are out there maybe doing this sound, this was a sound. It's not like it was an underground sound that never really broke through the mainstream. This is a type of thing that got really that derivations of this became very popular on mainstream radio, and it wouldn't happen for 7-8 years, so in that sense it is ahead of its time, even though in terms of the mainstream appeal, because this was not Fugazi, Minutemen. They weren't selling a ton of records, in the mid 80s. So it just took a while for everybody else to catch on, I guess.
Also, I really love a band where majority of their songs are 3 minutes and 30 seconds or less. That's a real sweet spot for me, I think.
Well, it's just a nice balance, you know what I mean, with some of the more sprawling stuff. Yeah. And the emotional I mean, we'll talk, and I who knows, I may stick around for this whole episode, guys, with how it's going right now.
Man.
Dragged you in.
But yeah, I think that's like my takeaway. I was a little, I think, more familiar with Husker Du than you guys are, but yeah, they just have a very appealing sound to me in a type of music that's not always appealing. And we talked about Metallica, right? Like how they were able to make like harsh metal also sound very palatable to like a large amount of people, right? In a way you wouldn't expect. And I do feel like Husker Du kind of is like that, in their own way. So
they just didn't get as popular as Metallica.
Right. They did not. No. So
not many people did, Josh.
Yeah, thumbs up for me. Yeah, this is my album of the week also.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. It was close. Reckoning was up there, but